Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Marvin's Room. We're covering a lot of beautiful LOA issues today, from how it affects your mental health to LOA in the world today, and even uh, Marvin's history with LOA. So it's going to be an iconic episode, and let's just jump right into it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Marvin, how did you find LOA?
So I would say I first heard about LOA in 2009. Actually, a friend of mine he rapped about it, and I forget the lyric, but the lyric went something along the lines of "I peeped it like the secret, love attraction," and I was just like, huh? And then he kind of like broke it down for me now because I had never really heard the term love attraction. But around that time, the book and the movie The Secret came out, I believe, and so but I didn't pay any attention to it. So I would say probably around 2014 ish, 2015 ish was probably the time when I was like, okay, I got to start looking into this stuff, and that's kind of when I started my like spiritual self help journey around that time, and that's when I came into contact with people like Abraham Hicks, excuse me, and I think Florence Scovel Shinn. I think Florence Scovel Shinn was actually the very first self help book or metaphysics book that I read, The Game of Life and How to Play It. And I was so excited reading that book because you know how you got this feeling like um you have this feeling like something's missing. Like life is not this hard. And I had that feeling around that time and I was like, what's going on? It has to be easier. Being a college student and making like, 5, 10 grand a year at the time, because I was only part-time as a college student working.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you just think to yourself like something has to be, easier. And that's when I started learning about the law, and I was like, "Holy crap!" And then I kind of, got into hermetic teachings a little bit because a lot of this stuff comes from hermetic teachings that came went back thousands of years or whatever. Hermes and different things like that. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I got started in the whole game.
Yeah, the LOA community, I think, probably often forgets that the law of attraction goes by many names, right? You mentioned The Secret, you mentioned just some ancient history way before law of attraction was ever coined as a term. I mean, um, I know you quote Jesus a lot in your teachings
Yeah,
and or in your YouTube videos, and
absolutely.
um, so have you encountered a lot of LOA ideas in places you wouldn't expect, and from people maybe that you wouldn't expect?
Um, Rephrase that. I'm not sure what you mean.
Um,
I was gonna say something about the whole Jesus thing and religion thing. If you want me to touch on that real quick.
yeah, I mean, so many people now totally block out everything that maybe is religious in some
Okay.
form, and
Yeah.
really, I guess what I'm saying is it's maybe not so far off from having a lot of the same messaging as law of
Right.
attraction.
Right. And that's kind of what I was getting ready to get at because I think I'm glad you brought that up because I definitely wanted to touch on this. I don't think I made a video about this before in the past necessarily. So it's good that we can talk about it now. Law of attraction, because I'm seeing more and more videos pop up on my feed. You see the these videos from these creators, and they say stuff like why I stopped following law of attraction. Law of attraction is demonic. Law of attraction is Satan. It's not. You're leaving God out of it. And me personally, I can see how somebody could come up with that summation from watching certain content creators. I can see because there are, in my opinion, certain content creators out there that are promoting a more, I guess, worldly view of law of attraction, a more narcissistic view of law of attraction. But if you really look at the crux of everything, law of attraction is literally all throughout the Bible. You know, it's what, in my opinion, Jesus was talking about. He was trying to get you to understand how to use your thoughts, the words you speak, your feelings you have. And when there's synergy between those three, then when you say the mountain move, the mountain must move, right? And you hear Bible verses like life and death are in the power of the tongue. That's a proverb. That's in the book of Proverbs, who's written by King Solomon, I believe, who was considered the wisest man at that time. And So you hear these Bible verses that are quoted, "Life and death are in the power of the tongue," which literally means obviously like you speak life or you speak death over your life. You know, you look at these famous people, you know, Tupac and Biggie, you know, famous rappers. They spoke death. They talked about death all the time. And what happened to them? They ended up dying very young. You know, a lot of celebrities and different artists and things like that, they talk about these things and they don't realize how much when you speak about something, you feel strongly convicted about something, you don't realize you're actually attracting that, you're bringing that into your life. And so I just think I just laugh when I hear these people on these YouTube channels and they say, oh, the law of attraction is not of God. And I'm like, it totally is. Like, that's what Jesus is trying to get us to do. He was trying to, you know, how do you think, you know, turning water into wine? And how do you think doing all of these miracles, walking on water and different things like that? You know, I think he speaks about that all throughout the Bible and do unto others as you would have them do to you. A lot of these principles in LOA, which people talk about that, which what Jesus said and what Neville said, Neville has a golden rule for the people that follow. They know about Neville Goddard. Neville has a golden rule, which is do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? And so I think this is a lesson a lot of us learn growing up.
Yeah, like second grade, first grade, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like when I hear people, there's so much correlation between the Bible and even other scriptures, you know, Muslims and Buddhists, and I think the overall summation, in my opinion, they're all saying the same thing. There's just a different leader at the top. There's a different, and I think you and I talked about this before in the past. We talked about like God and Allah. You know, it's literally the same thing. You know what I mean? We just call him God and they call him Allah. But then there's different differences where people acknowledge that Jesus is a prophet, but he's not the savior. But they do admit, okay, he's a prophet. And I get those little minute differences that people may have, and I understand that. And I respect people's differences. But overall, I think religion is saying the same thing. Law of attraction is all throughout religion. You know, I mean, it's all throughout religion, no matter what your faith is, Christianity, Muslim, Buddhist, it's there.
Yeah. So you feel like a lot of people might have access to LOA materials and they might not even, you know, in their own life and their own things that they're involved with already, and they might not even know it. But how do you think people find communities like this law of attraction community on YouTube or other places online and start reading into the books? You know, what do you think is the main draw of people to come find law of attraction?
That's a great question. I think that question can be answered simply. There's a myriad of reasons, but from what I've seen on the internet, it seems like everybody is obsessed with a specific person. So I think people get to a point to where, you know, it's kind of funny. It's kind of like one of those things I look at where it's kind of like you reject something for so long. I don't want to get religious, but it kind of seems like, for instance, like people that run from spirituality. I'm not going to say religion. Let's just say spirituality. People know something's missing and they know they're living a certain way. And intrinsically, they know or they feel something is wrong. But they don't know what it is. It's like they keep running from it instead of running towards it. And so it's kind of like how God might say, or Jesus might say, and I only speak of this because I grew up a Christian. So I can't really speak to Muslims or Buddhists or anything like that. But it's kind of like when Jesus would say, or God would say, like, I'm here. I'm waiting for you to come find me. I'm here. Will you accept me? Like, I'm not going anywhere. When you're ready to repent, I'm here for you. You know, I love you, etc., etc. So I think how most people find LOA is kind of in that sense where they're running from themselves and then they get to a point to where they're like, damn. And usually it has something to do with relationships, in my opinion. I think relationship failures, whether it was one bad breakup or whether it was a bunch of different breakups or a bunch of, I think relationships are like the cornerstone, not money necessarily, not career, not anything. Relationships, I think, are the biggest pull to why people find this law of attraction stuff.
And so would you say that those people are a target audience for you in your videos online, or who do you really feel like you want to speak to when you make your videos?
Yeah, well, I want to just speak to anybody that first off is willing to listen, because you got to be willing to listen. My videos, I don't want to specifically make videos cater to manifesting a specific person, if that's, but it's prevalent. It's that's extremely prevalent. That's what's popular on YouTube, is manifesting a specific person. And people, a lot of people, they don't, like I said, they don't really care. Like, you care about money, of course you care about money, but and you care about your career, but usually, like I said, people's big wake up call is when they go through heartache. Whether it's once, whether it's twice, whatever the case may be, like it.
And maybe they feel like they have more control over a relationship than they have control over their income or the place where they live.
That's a great point.
You know?
Yeah.
When really we shouldn't feel that way. We shouldn't feel like there's those kind of restrictions. But because there's another human involved, it somehow becomes maybe more viable to us,
That's a really good point.
But I think a lot of people maybe end up, when you try and manifest a specific person, you're trying to bend someone else's will,
Right.
or change some other consciousness, which is, to me, something that seems like a lot of LOA content really tells you that you can't. Not that it's against the law, but it's just one of the things that you shouldn't wish harm upon somebody. You can't change. Like when a magic genie comes out of the lamp or something, and they're like, "What are your 3 wishes?" And like, you can't wish somebody dead. Like that's like, that's wrong. That's
right.
You can't, and you can't make people love you. That's also part of like a lot of lore and a lot of stories and things like that. But it's interesting that LOA seems to still draw a crowd of people that want that power.
Yeah. I think it's a lack of maybe not being heard when you were younger. I think a lot of this stuff stems from childhood, and a lot of people in the LOA community, they try to deny that. They're like, oh, I don't need to do shadow work. I don't need to heal the past. They say these things, and I just think that that's a cop-out because they don't want to do the work, because it hurts taking off those Band-Aids when you got to address yourself. And I think a lot of people in this community, not even in this community, I think people in general, they never want to address their problems. They never want to look in the mirror and take accountability of decisions that they made, et cetera, all of the above. So, but yes, I think I had no idea about SP stuff until like it started popping up on my feed. I remember years ago, I started seeing videos from this lady named Veronica Isles. And I'm like, who is this? And then it's like, oh, get an X back or da 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 da. And I'm just like, wait, what? Like, and then I realized it was a thing. But she wasn't talking about it in the traditional way. She was talking about, using the law and stuff. And I'm like, and then that forced me to stumble upon, other content creators, and eventually my good friend Agnes Vivarelli. And I liked her video. I liked Agnes's videos a lot because Agnes's videos her videos have never come from a place of trying to get. And I feel like a lot of people in this LOA community, when they're trying to manifest a specific person in general, they're doing it to try to get. They're trying to suck something out of somebody else instead of learning to love themselves. And that's what drew me to Agnes's teachings. Is her teachings are always about self-love. Like, if you want to manifest your soulmate, if you want to manifest your dream partner, or you want to manifest somebody back, it starts with yourself. You got to fall in love with yourself. Don't look outside yourself, what's already inside yourself. And that's what a lot of people do. They look outside of themselves for something instead of looking in themselves. Or like how we talked about before, remember we had that conversation about change? We talked about how people try to change the outside instead of changing the inside.
Right.
And we were talking about like how people, they'll cut their hair, or they'll dye their hair,
get a tattoo.
Tattoos.
Yeah.
Different things. Like, they'll do all of this external work because they know intrinsically, something needs to change. Something is different. But and they don't realize cutting your hair, dyeing your hair a different color, getting a tattoo is not going to do anything.
Or going to the gym even. I mean, I think a lot of people start their self-healing journey after big issues by going to the gym, and you start working on your physical outward person, and starts to help create the change inside for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
But also, you talk a lot about in your videos doing the hard work of figuring out your past traumas and healing
Mm-hmm.
before you can, kind of get into alignment and really figure out the things you want in life. If I'm kind of, I mean, I think
Yeah.
I'm reading that
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I think a lot of people are dealing with a lot of different traumas and stuff right now.
Sure. Sure.
I mean, I think in particular, men's mental health is at an all-time low. I mean, what do you want? What can they in particular take from your videos? Like how can law of attraction support men?
It's funny. I'm glad you asked that question because I really do want the men to pay attention to listen to me because ever since I started my coaching journey 3 years ago, 99% of my clients have been women.
Wow.
And I could probably count on one hand how many times, or how many men rather, I've worked with. And that's concerning to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a 99 to 1% ratio of men to women in the world.
No, not even in the slightest. Which is why like I applaud women for reaching out and seeking help. You know what I mean? But I think there's a stigma around men that men don't want to reach out and get help. But I want that stigma to change because we need help just like everybody else needs help. Whether you're a woman, whether you're a child, men need help too. And I think society for a very long time has told us to man it out, to be quiet, don't complain, which I get, I understand. And I think men have natural proclivities to be that way. But because of society, because of societal pressures, you're around your friends and stuff gets hard and you'll say to your friends, stop being a bitch. That's how men talk to each other. Shut up, stop being a little bitch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it just is what it is. And so we start to just, instead of open up, we start to shut down. And so when you bring up mental health, I really think that mental health is such a big thing, and it's come to the forefront of the world over the past 5 years, specifically. I'd say 5 to 10 years specifically. But it's funny because the LOA community, in my opinion, instead of helping, a lot of times it makes it worse. It makes mental health worse because a lot of these people in these communities, when you go on these forums, like I know you're an Reddit person. Reddit is super duper toxic. Like, people, if you believe in law of assumption, anybody watching this that knows Neville, like if you follow Neville, if you go on these law of assumption Reddits.
Oh, versus the law of attraction.
Versus the law of attraction.
Okay.
Yeah, like the debates are ridiculous, and the comments that people leave. I mean, people. I've been on Reddit before, and I've seen like some of the mean things people have said about me, and it's funny because I just laugh because you're talking about the same thing, and. But yeah, these guys get these guys in the Neville has some hardcore fans. Like they get really, really nasty. You know what I mean? Like they really, really do. So it's kind of like, it's weird because law of attraction, law of assumption, in my opinion, it's supposed to help the world, but mental health wise, I don't think it's helping. It makes people feel like they need to give up. It makes people feel like, because a lot of these people in the comments, when you read the comments, they make people feel like they're doing it wrong.
People are just happy to be like vindictive with the anonymity of the internet.
Yeah, like nobody knows who I am. I'm gonna just get on here and troll and say some dumb shit and make this person feel bad, not realizing like some people really do end up feeling bad, and they feel like, oh, I'm not doing it wrong. I'm not saying my affirmations right. I'm not visualizing right. I'm getting so frustrated. And then they read a comment from somebody, from a 16-year-old that thinks they know about manifesting, and they let that comment literally mess them up.
Yeah.
And you talk about mental health, and that's mental health. Letting somebody behind a keyboard somewhere in Portugal or wherever you're at, thinking, you know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you think? Like some good affirmations or good ways for men to try and engage more and kind of like shed that toxicity of what's going on the internet right now, and help heal their depression, isolation, those feelings of, loneliness and failure that a lot of people are feeling right now.
Well, I would definitely say to get a strong support system if you can. Find a strong support system of men. I think this is something that I give a lot of credit to women. I think you guys are very good and do a way better job at holding each other down, if that makes sense. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I feel
like friend groups. I mean, you know what I mean, and
I feel
being
like
able to
women are much more proactive about reaching out to each other when they, are concerned, saying things like, "Hey, you good?"
yeah,
checking in, even maybe when reading the body cues, even
right,
when their friend hasn't come up and just said, "Oh, I feel so miserable," because nobody wants to tell their friends that. Like, you feel like you're burdening somebody else. You're going to ruin their day potentially.
sure,
And
sure,
so I think women do tend to be good at listening and bonding in that way that um, men could probably take a note of. But I mean, also, I feel like women are sometimes dealing with a lot of toxic things today too.
sure,
They've got their own, set of battles that a lot of women are fighting, and it's hard to know what communities are quote unquote on your side, if that makes sense. So, what do you have to say to women about LOA being on their side and LOA being really feminist and you know better a better way to potentially use LOA than just trying to get an X back, or really leveling up and stepping up to the plate, improving themselves, working on their mental health.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so to finish a little bit talking about the men.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was
No, no,
jumping
no, no,
around.
no, no, no. Because I'm getting ready to. I'm just gonna finish answering that a little
Yeah.
bit and then go to the women's side
Okay.
because it's basically the same thing. But for the men, I would say, like I said, get a strong support group. Don't be afraid to reach out to help. It's not a weakness. It's a strength because we all need help. Um, I think that be very careful of what you listen to on, especially on the internet, because the internet is the wild wild west. And I made a video about this recently where I talk about, and this is talking to men and women, the dangers of listening to a lot of these podcasts, a lot of these red pill podcasts. A lot of these podcasts nowadays, they have men bashing women, or they have women bashing men, and then it's creating this diversity of where nothing is getting solved. Everybody's arguing, rebuttaling, and nobody wants to listen.
Blaming
And
each other. Yeah.
yeah, just like finger pointing. And in my opinion, LOA and law of assumption is about looking in the mirror and understanding you create reality. So what I was saying in my one of my videos that I dropped recently was, if you're watching these toxic podcasts talking about how women ain't shit or men ain't shit, um, and like that's what you're seeping that into your subconscious mind, right? And as we all know that follow this stuff, whatever's in your subconscious mind is what's gonna develop in your life. And so I tell people all the time, you got to stop watching these podcasts just bashing women. You got to stop watching these podcasts just bashing men, because you don't know, like, that's your beliefs are becoming that. And so don't be upset if you continue to perpetuate the same toxic patterns, the same toxic relationships. Because a lot of people, and I said this in videos in the past, and a lot of people, when I say it, they just like, ooh, because they feel it. I say all the time, people change relationships to avoid changing themselves. Changing relationships is the easiest thing to do. But what's the hard thing to do? Looking in the mirror and being like, okay, what's the common denominator here? I've been in all of these relationships. What's the common denominator? Me. It's hard for people to do that. Super hard. Because everybody, especially nowadays, everybody wants to be a victim. You talked about mental health earlier. People want to be victims so bad nowadays. People that aren't even victims, they're trying to look for shit just to make themselves victims. And when you have victim mentality, and you and I talked about this before off camera, obviously, when you have victim mentality, you can't heal. You can't grow. Because when you have victim mentality, it's saying you have power over me. When you say you're not a victim anymore, that's actually you taking your power back. Which is why I don't like when I see people blaming the government for a lot of stuff, even though, you know, the government's the government, whatever. But I tell people all the time, I don't care if Trump's in office. I don't care if Biden's in office. I don't care who's in office. I'm going to do what I got to do to take care of me. I'm not relying on Donald Trump to take care of me. Donald Trump's not going to pay my bills. I'm not relying on Joe Biden. Joe Biden don't pay my bills. He sleep right now. I don't know where he at. He probably somewhere. He probably sleep right now. Somebody's writing his speeches. The girl that lives across the street from me, she went to school with a girl that writes his speeches. I don't think I ever told you that before.
No, you have.
Yeah, that's real talk. My neighbor across the street from me, she went to school with a girl, and she's now the writer for Biden's speeches. She writes Biden's speeches.
I mean, all the presidents have professional speechwriters, but
yeah, but the president ain't falling asleep though.
I was gonna say your impression of him was real good.
Joe's falling asleep. The American people, you know I'm here.
Well,
sorry, Joe. If you ever see this for any reason, I love you because you're from my home state of Delaware. Even though you haven't really done, you know, a lot.
Increased our air traffic.
Yeah, because whenever you come back home, you shut shit down and traffic be terrible. So, thank you, Joe.
Always practicing the gratitude, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Gratitude.
Thank you. Love you.
Talk to me a little bit about some gratitude stuff that people can incorporate into their lives, just to help, like you said, get them. You can't make changes in your life without changing anything, right? Like change doesn't just happen when you just keep doing your routine, which is, where I think a lot of people fall out of getting the things they want is they think about it, all the time, but you do actually have to incorporate some changes into your life to make LOA work for you, like affirmations, like journaling maybe, or you taking time to write a list of things that you actually want in your life. I mean, I feel like your listeners just want to hear you talk about maybe some of the things that you do in your life that are good habits, or things that you encourage your clients and would encourage them to do, as little changes they can make in their life to help get them on a good path for growth and healing and change.
Well, I think it all starts off with just knowing that no matter how bad your situation is, especially if you live in America, like if you live in the Western world, you live in Canada, if you live in America, if you live in Western Europe, I mean, are there some things to complain about? Sure. But should you really be complaining? No. I don't think, especially when you live in a country like America, like so many people want to come here and
like there's so many things to be grateful for. You mean it's so easy to find things in your life to be grateful for.
Well, exactly. But as the saying goes, where your thoughts go, energy flows, right? And so the funny thing about people is, I don't know, I feel like subconsciously we've been trained to focus on the bad, right? And so everything could be going great over here, but you're focused on that 10% that's not.
Right. You're like, why is my car out of gas quickly? Why is this coffee shop closed the time I want to go there? Instead of like, I'm so grateful that I've got a car and that I have a community that I don't know has local businesses or X, Y, and Z.
Exactly. I'm grateful I can go get coffee.
Yeah.
People can't go get coffee in certain parts of the world.
Or even, I mean, there are people who are probably watching your channel who can't go get coffee. I mean,
exactly.
There are, that's the rise of DoorDash for you. But Um, but yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things to be grateful for in the USA.
You can never go wrong with gratitude. You can never, whenever something goes wrong in my life, something I always do is I always focus on the good.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Whatever that thing may be, because a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people think that once they like start law of attraction, master law of attraction, bad things aren't going to happen. And it's like, no, bad things are still going to happen. But life is, uh, what's that saying? Life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it. Most people struggle in life because they respond to life the wrong way. When life throws them a curveball, they don't respond the right way.
Yeah.
But really, like I said, life is really 10% of what happens to you, and then 90% of it is how you respond to it. And so if you can remember that, just remember respond the right way when life throws you curveballs or when things get hard, and to always have gratitude. And in order to have gratitude, you have to train your mind to focus on what's there. Focus on what you have. Don't focus on what you don't have. A person could be making 200,000 a year, 300,000 a year, but they wake up every day feeling miserable because they don't have a specific person. They're not married yet, or they miss their whoever. And it's like, look at everything in your life that's going right. Literally, you have everything in your life going right, but you don't have this one piece, and that one piece that you're missing is dominating your entire vibration. And then what happens is that starts to bring you down the vibrational scale. And what happens is the fact that you're focused on that you don't have your person right now, what's going to end up happening is now
you're feeling lack.
Feeling lack. And so what the universe is going to do is the universe is going to bring you more lack. Because now you're focused on this small lack over here, but you make the small lack this big, even though it's really this big.
Instead of being so grateful, your life is so full, maybe, that you have time for so many activities,
exactly.
or good income, and maybe a steady job, or a boss that you like, or
and that fullness,
community.
Exactly, and that fullness is what's. And the funny thing is that fullness that you speak of is what's going to bring you your person.
Right.
You feel that and focus on that.
And law of attraction says that when you're at your highest vibrational energy, in your highest vibrational state, somebody will pick up on that, or the universe will pick up on that, and give that back to you in kind. But probably that whatever you're picking up is also in a high vibration, right? That's also probably why it doesn't work to try and get back with your exes, because even if you are healing yourself and doing the work and putting the time and just getting up the steps and up the levels of your own life, if you do manifest your SP back, then
you're going to do two different vibrations.
And two different vibrations still, because who's to say that they're doing the same kind of work on themselves? And no wonder that kind of falls out of sync very quickly when people do happen to get what they want. You just quickly realize, oh, I don't know if I want this anymore. Or
well, it happens all the time. And I mean, I've experienced that where I've elevated to such a high level, and then people come back, and then you realize like, oh man, I'm not even like on that wave anymore. I'm so glad whatever happened. Like I don't care about this no more. I don't care about you no more.
But sometimes it takes a long time to get there. And a lot of people were just living in I think you call it the instant snack food world.
Oh, microwave generation.
Microwave generation.
Snack food.
Snack food, microwaves, But yeah, you definitely mentioned how many people don't have the patience to just like hang out in those high levels with themselves for a little while until the universe delivers them the things that they want, right? And then as you say, people get disappointed, they let the internet attack them, get down on themselves mentally, maybe, have a little bit of a vicious cycle. So where was I going with this?
Always impatience. Patience is always a problem.
Yeah, I just want your thoughts on like when people are looking for a timeline. I think you did a video on this recently. What you say to those kinds of 24-hour manifest. 1 week manifest type deals,
It's that will work for a very small percentage of people. I mean, like for instance, you got to think about somebody like a Jesus. How many Jesuses do you think there are in the world? Exactly.
Yeah.
How many Jesuses do you think have existed since the beginning of time?
Not a whole lot.
Right. So you gonna say something?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say. So when you think about that, think about the odds of you getting your manifestation when you want it exactly. You have to reach it. You, in order to get to that kind of level of manifesting, you have to get rid of a lot of blocks, especially a lot of subconscious blocks, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do a lot of work to where when you think a thought, it can just start to show up like quickly, very quickly, 24 hours or maybe a couple days, maybe a week. There are people out there that can do that, but in my opinion, very few people. And patience always wins. And understands like Neville. People always like to talk about Neville. Neville had manifestations that took a long time. You know what I mean? And like Neville says, the time you don't know, the how you don't know. Let the universe bring it. It's not your job to worry about the how. Neville talks about the length it takes for a chicken to be born versus the length it takes for a horse to be born versus the length it takes for a human to be born. It takes a human 9 months, obviously. A horse, I forget what the time frame from a horse. Do you remember the time? It's like
9 months? No, that's humans.
It's like I forget how long, but it's longer. It takes
gestation period.
Yeah, like the gestation period is way longer. For that, it's different for everything. For everything to be born and come to its complete form, whether it's a chicken, because he mentioned this in his seminar. I forget what the number is though. He mentioned that the time frame is different for all of those things to be born. So whatever your time frame is, you just have to wait. And most people, they don't want to wait, or if they're waiting, they think that they're doing it wrong. They're like, oh, I must be doing it wrong. I don't know how to do it. Or I'm doing, and it's like, no, you just have to wait and persist in whatever it is that you want, and you know, it'll show up. So,
well, the gestation period for a horse is 11 to 12 months.
Is that what it is? Okay, I said way longer. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, gestation period for a horse, 11, 12 months. That's longer than a human. Humans aren't going to stay in the you know. But that's a perfect example of manifestation. Manifestation is the same way. Some manifestations you may get in 30 days. Some manifestations may take a year. Some may take 2 years. Like,
right.
It is what it is.
I think it's important to talk about how that timeline isn't necessarily correlating to what you're asking the universe for. Like, you know, sometimes the universe gives you really big things in a really quick timeline, but some of the times the smaller things that you want don't come for a while, and maybe they come in an unexpected way.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of times, we were talking about earlier about how LOA goes by many names, and I think one piece of media that I have consumed many times over the years, Star Wars, and talking about the Force really makes me think about LOA, especially like the one scene where Luke is trying to lift his plane out of the swamp, and he's like, I can't do it, it's too big. And Yoda's like, no, it's not too big. It's the same as all this other practice you've been doing. You know, you just think it's too big. And Yoda shows him up and gets the plane out of the swamp. But I feel like that's how a lot of people are with their LOA goals. Is like, that's too big.
It's a great point.
I can't do that, or the universe won't give me this, or I don't deserve this. Maybe, you know, I'm not strong enough for this,
that's
or I don't know. You probably hear a lot more than I do, but definitely those thoughts can really eat away at your confidence in your manifestations.
Feeling worthy, I think, is a big one. First of all, that Star Wars reference was spot on, like spot on. You know, feeling worthy is a big one. A lot of people don't feel worthy of receiving their manifestations, which is why they don't get it, and they're lying to themselves, telling themselves they're not ready, or whatever the lies they're telling themselves, and this is why they're delaying their manifestation. I think you made a great point about small versus big desires. Some people do get big desires fast. Some people do get big desires in a short period of time. Most people it takes much longer to get bigger desires because their belief system isn't caught up to their desires. So,
right, because they don't believe that they're worth this thing that they really desire. You know, like
exactly, and so. But not realizing, you know, you can collapse time and space and things can come a lot quicker than you realize. But I think what plays in a role with that is when people manifest big things a lot of times, they lose it. and they lose what they manifest. It's like lottery winners. How many lottery winners go broke in less than 5 years after they win $500 million, $200 million?
I don't know.
Because it's a lot. The percentage is ridiculous.
Oh.
These people win the lottery. A lot of those people that whatever the amount of money, it could be $1 million, it could be $5 million, it could be $100 million, it could be $1 billion. A lot of these people that win the lottery, most of those people, they lose their fortune. And in my opinion, knowing about the law and studying the law now, it's because, in my opinion, it's because they were at a certain level when they manifested it, right? That brought the desire in. This is why I don't believe in, a lot of times, this is why getting what you want fast is a bad thing a lot of times. It's because you don't develop the habits to keep what it is that you manifest.
Oh, I like that.
And so when these people win the lottery, or when these people get a relationship that they want, they don't have the understanding, they don't have the tools in their toolbox to be able to maintain it. Because getting a manifestation and maintaining manifestation is two different things. It's two different energies. And if you don't feel worthy of having a large lump sum of money, if you don't feel worthy of having a soulmate or a partner, a husband, a wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, if you don't feel worthy of that, it's a matter of time before you lose them or you lose it. It's a matter of time because you don't feel worthy enough. You don't have the tools to maintain and keep that.
Your subconscious and your conscious are
at war
with each other.
Yeah. It's your heart and your mind. Your heart and your mind, it's always a tug of war between your heart and your mind. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people's minds win because your mind is ego. Your ego is always telling you one thing, but your heart is telling you another. And people don't know how to, lead with their hearts.
Right.
And they just lead with their egos, and your ego makes worldly decisions. I tell people all the time, your ego creates fear-based problems and fear-based decisions, but your heart creates love-based solutions.
That's deep.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I remember being on a Zoom a few years ago and I said something like that, and I felt like I was like Aristotle or like Plato or some shit. I was like, I should write a book, yo, come talk to me, like.
I like when you talk about the electrical energy that your heart and your brain give off.
Oh, brain-heart coherence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a big thing that
Joe Dispenza talks about that.
People don't listen to. They don't take time to quiet their mind anymore. Nobody takes time to be bored.
It's very true.
Or to lie down in stillness and in meditation,
very
and
true.
Listen to the thoughts that come to the surface. Figure out what things are bothering their subconscious, what problems they might need to figure out, or what trends keep, as you said, what trends keep popping up in your life. Maybe you keep having the same issues come up with your relationships, or you keep having same difficulties with your boss, or
all of those things.
All those things, it's so hard to take time to, as I said, sit with your eyes closed for a while and just marinate in those feelings and those emotions, especially like you said for men when they're taught to not be comfortable having those emotions, or even maybe putting names to them. I think a lot of men don't have difficulty maybe identifying their emotions, and
absolutely.
And for women, I think a lot of it's almost like setting aside time for self-care because they're trying to be everywhere all at once these days, please everyone, take time to help anybody but yourself. I think self-care is kind of lacking, and everyone always thinks, oh, I'll take a bath and I'll get my nails done, and that's self-care. And it's like,
nah, not that kind of self-care.
Yeah, sometimes self-care is hard work, right?
Self-care up here, and the self-care in here is what needs to be done.
Not,
like we talked about earlier, not the external self-care. It's not a haircut. It's not getting a tattoo. It's not losing weight. Like, don't get me wrong.
Not getting a pedicure.
Yeah, losing weight is good. Getting in shape is good. But that's not going to change how you feel.
Right, and maybe that's the start to addressing some of your internal insecurities, maybe, of oh, maybe I'm not satisfied with the way I look, or I'm not satisfied with the vibe I give people, or I'm not satisfied with this, that, or the other. So I think it can be a really good jumping off point to identifying some bigger things in yourself.
Agreed.
But yeah, a lot of people stop when it's like, all right, write down 10 things a day that you're grateful for, or spend 15 minutes
Yeah.
with your eyes closed and, um, you know, just journal about your experience or.
I think you're spot on with quieting the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham Hicks speaks about quieting the mind and how that's basically the fastest way to raise vibration. Because when you quiet your mind, you stop thought. The human brain has what, roughly 60,000 thoughts a day. I think it's the number. And so when you're having all those thoughts, you can't think. When you're trying to force thoughts, you can't think. This is why I tell people all the time. People say, "Oh, I can't figure this out. I can't come up with an idea." I tell people, never try to force and come up with ideas.
Sleep.
Right. Well, you know why it comes in your sleep? Because it's when you're relaxed. That's why ideas and things. That's why you hear people say things like, "Oh, when I'm shaving, ideas come to me," or when I'm taking a shower, ideas come to me. It's because you're relaxed. Ideas can't come to you when you're trying to force them or when you're stressed out. But when you're sleeping, like you just alluded to,
Mm-hmm.
when you're sleeping, now the subconscious mind takes over, and now you can be, it can accept whatever you're feeding it. You know what I mean? One of the great LOA teachers, Emile Coué from France, he talked about this autosuggestion. He would have his subjects lay in bed. He would have his subjects lay in bed, and he would have people stand maybe 3 feet from the bed, and he would say affirmations to them while he slept.
Like what?
Because your subconscious, like, so if you were sick, one of his big affirmations was, "Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better."
I like that.
So you're sleeping in bed, and you just either repeat to yourself or you have somebody else. This is how hypnotists do their thing. This is how, but because when you're asleep, your subconscious mind becomes active, right? Theta state.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The brain you have beta, alpha, theta, delta, gamma, brainwave states. And so when you're asleep, your brain is in a really suggestive state, because Emile Coué calls it autosuggestion. It's in a suggestive state. So when you're going to sleep, this is what Nella talks about too, imagining, which is why imagining is so important before you go to sleep when you first wake up, because those are the two times when your brain is so fertile and it soaks in everything you say. So this is what he would do, these guys would do. They would tell people, imagine what you want before you go to sleep when you first wake up, or have somebody fall asleep and stand at the edge of their bed and just, every day in every way, you are getting better and better. And he was literally curing people of illnesses, like I'm talking about life-threatening illnesses. And this is like, I think Emile Coué was like in the 1800s. So he's literally curing people, and people are getting rid of problems, like financial problems, everything, like just a bunch of stuff.
Say it one more time for the people at home.
Every day, in every way, you are getting better and better. You in the camera. Every day, in every way, you are getting better and better.
Love it.
Is that it? I think we're gonna wrap it up with that.
Yeah.
You think we should wrap it up with that?
I think for today that was good.
Yeah. I like that. But
right, cool.
But no, real quick. I did want to say this. To mention that, because you were talking about like earlier, men and women, and what to do. I think you were very right about sciencing the mind, but also too, we can end on this kind of, don't let this self-help stuff trick you into narcissistic behavior. Because something that I'm seeing nowadays is a lot of narcissistic behavior with this self-help, self-love, law of attraction, law of assumption. It's becoming about self. It's becoming about what I want. And people are doing these manifestations and these visualizations, and they're not taking into account the other people involved. So like, say you want $1 million, right? Or you want to manifest money. Is somebody going to get hurt in order for you to manifest that money?
Right. Because you don't know how the universe is going to get you that money.
Exactly.
Maybe it's going to be because you get in a big accident, or because somebody close to you dies and leaves you their life insurance money, or
exactly,
some terrible way. So what do you recommend people add to their affirmations to I feel like you've had some positive ones in the past that are getting things in a perfect way almost.
That's exactly what it is. Florence Scovel Shin. Those were her words.
Okay.
So when you ask for things, you ask for it under grace, in a perfect way. Under grace in a perfect way. So if you're gonna bring me, $500 million universe, because I've been waiting for all of this time, so that me and my girl can, you know what I mean, do what we gotta do, I'm gonna say bring it to me under grace in a perfect way. I don't want nothing bad to happen to nobody. No car accidents, no none of that stuff. But again, let me reiterate: is don't be very careful because some of these LOA teachers out here I see are telling you to make it all about you. And I see a lot of law of attraction narcissism going on right now. And law of attraction, law of assumption is losing its meaning, in my opinion. And that's exactly what you don't want to do. You don't want to lose the true, real meaning of LOA, and you don't want to do it for selfish reasons. Because again, there's other people involved, and you don't want anybody else to get hurt. And it's not all about you. It's about what you can give to LOA as well as receive.
All right, I love that. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. And if you like this video, check out some of the others.
Yes.
You can definitely subscribe to, just so you can keep up to date with videos that get put out pretty much every week.
Because I got that heat. That's why I got that fire.
And we'll try and get another one of these fun interviews out for you in the very, very near future.
Thank you for having this interview with me and for these beautiful questions. I think the viewers are really going to love this.
Have a chat.